That is why they are so fervent. TV with your host, Jeff Charles.
Jeff Charles, contributor for LibertyNation.com.
Hello and welcome to Right On, where we tackle the issues of the day from the right perspective. Arizona Governor Katie Hobbs has already made some interesting decisions that are calling into question her commitment to dealing with the ongoing migrant crisis. She has stopped construction of the border wall, and she is set to defund the border strike force put into place by her predecessor. Some argue that this decision is short-sighted, and it might ignore the reality of the situation on the ground, especially as it pertains to illegal immigration and also the flow of fentanyl coming into the country. I have with me Liberty Nation's national correspondent, Sarah Cowgill, to discuss this matter. Welcome to the program.
Hey, thanks, Jeff, for having me.
Awesome.
What can we talk about today besides Governor Katie Hobbs making a giant mistake?
I mean, I don't see what else, and nothing else is going on today. I mean,
nothing else is going on.
Yeah, nothing at all. But, you know, we talk about the border a lot when we've had you on the show. But in your opinion, what are some of the biggest challenges facing Arizona's border security efforts right now?
Well, first and foremost, it's a lack of give a damn with the elected officials, unless you live on, you know, one of those border areas, and then it's right in your face every day. But for those in the bubble of Phoenix, where the capital is, where Katie Hobbs lives, all of that, nobody, you know, they've been dealing with a very diverse population between, you know, Latin Americans and American Americans. And so that's not anything new. So nobody is like going, oh, that's a new person in our world, because everybody, you know, we've been around that forever. But the biggest problem is the border itself. You got 300 plus miles of not pretty terrain. It's hotter than the blazes in the summer. It's cold in the winter. There are rattlesnakes. There are coyotes. There's pitfalls. There's cliffs. It's just an unfriendly climate. And the terrain is rugged and rocky. Some places it's flat, but mostly rugged, rocky outcroppings. It's a difficult place to maneuver. It's also a difficult place to patrol. I mean, if you can throw out a bunch of mountain goats with some, you know, body cams on, you might have a better option of seeing what's going on out there. But, you know, that's going to be a tough sell to get people to go up and down those in that kind of condition. And I don't blame them. I wouldn't want to do it either. So couple that with I don't give a crap, and the money being chiseled away and reallocated, you know, it's going to be a perfect storm of just let them all in.
As far as you know, has anybody recommended compiling a force of mountain goats with cameras to patrol the border?
Have not. I think it might be a decent idea, since nobody else is doing anything. So maybe stick a goat out there with a camera. They jump around, and I mean, you know, it's going to be a bouncy film, but at least you'll see what's going on.
Well, or it might be a bad idea. Anyway, now, can you kind of give us, you mentioned in the article that you wrote for LibertyNation.com that she wants to defund, Katie Hobbs wants to defund a border strike force that was set up by former Governor Greg Ducey. Before we get into that, can you kind of tell us what this border strike force was?
That's Doug Ducey. Doug Ducey.
Doug Ducey, yes, that guy.
You want to? Okay, well, the border strike force was put into play in 2015. You know, this was the height of candidate Trump talking about border security, and Americans everywhere talking about border security, which is what propelled Trump into office in the first place, I believe. You know, and I don't think it was the best idea. And I mean, it was a strategic television task force to take out, you know, the violent criminals behind the drug trafficking. And it was supposed to be some sort of international cool effort. And what ended up was there were some successes. There were people arrested. There was busts and drugs and all sorts of things that was a success, but it wasn't necessarily that elite task force. It was, in fact, everybody belonging to the Department of Public Safety in Arizona. and the task force is under the Department of Public Safety. So even though that they got the credit for it, it doesn't mean they did the job. And what Katie Hobbs is trying to do is take that money away, put those people back into DPS somewhere else, to absorb them in other public safety jobs, and put that money into something or someone else. And then that's kind of still to be determined. It's very vague.
Sure. Okay. And that was going to lead me to my next question. I mean, because in Texas, they have something like that that Governor Greg Abbott put into place. I think it may have had different kind of results or maybe different functionality. But I mean, has Governor Hobbs given any details about what she plans to do about the migrant crisis outside of the strike force?
She has offered to reallocate funds and then absorb some of the money, and I think it's like $12 million, and to allow border communities that are very heavily impacted to apply for government grants, state government grants that can go into their community banks or their housing, or for hiring other officers and social workers and healthcare people. So it's not a bad idea. It's just not necessarily one that can function. I mean, once that money is gone and they're still being overrun and the gate is left open, that's not going to help. You got to shut the gate. You got to close the gate.
Yeah, and that does make sense. I mean, and considering that, I mean, I know under Doug Ducey, they had like a makeshift wall, right, made out of storage containers. And I understand that Hobbs is taking that down. And this is supposed to be more of a federal issue. But one of the issues that your article brings up is the issue of drug trafficking. I mean, we see all these overdose deaths occurring from fentanyl being smuggled over the border. I call them poisonings because most of the people who take the fentanyl that comes over the border don't know that they're taking it. But I mean, what role, if any, does Governor Hobbs have to play in addressing the illegal immigration and the fentanyl coming over the border? Or should she just kind of be letting the federal government handle it?
Well, you can't. You're a border state. So you have... Sure, the federal government is supposed to protect this nation, and they've seemed to have forgotten that it's their job to protect the international boundary. They don't care. And so, but you've got a state that is now lockstep with the Joe Biden policies going on in the swamp. And now you've got this wide open territory that people are kind of looking the other way, except for the guys living, that have property that butts up to the boundary, and they're ever watchful. But that's going to create its own problems too. So, she has a big responsibility here. The federal government needs to learn how to work with the state, and the state working with the feds. Now, since they're on the same team, you'd think that would be an easier task to complete, but it doesn't seem to be even a thought in the process. It's like, get it in here, get it out of my state, and let somebody else deal with it. And it's terrible. It's terrible. All of those states, New Mexico, California, Arizona, Texas, that's where it's coming in at. So, and it's only going to go out from there. It's not contained in each state. I mean, there's fentanyl all over the place. It's not because it came in on a boat to Chicago or in New York City or any of those places. It's coming in from the South, and it's just spreading everywhere. So that means there's a huge problem down there on the border. We're not making it here and giving it away in Indiana or New Mexico, or in New Mexico, it's coming through there. But, when you're looking at Wyoming and all the states that butt up to Canada, they're still dealing with the problem. So they're getting it from somewhere, and they're getting it from down south in the lower 48.
So do you see, I mean, even outside of Arizona, do you see any resolution coming at all? I mean, has the Biden administration proposed anything? I mean, I know up until this point, they haven't done a whole lot, but have you seen any movement on that front? Because I know the president and members of his cabinet are getting hammered on this issue.
Well, the president keeps pointing to the Congress and saying, well, they don't pass it, I can't sign it. And it goes back into a big bipartisan debate. So, I mean, nothing's going to get done unless somebody sticks their neck out and changes teams. That's the only way it's ever going to get done. To get it through the House, to get it through the Senate, somebody's got to switch gears and go, look, I don't care if I am a Democrat, but we got to get a handle on this, and that means border security. And good luck finding that person. I mean, that's just falling on your sword for the right thing to do, but that doesn't mean anybody who has an election coming up wants to do that. You know, they're basically all about themselves. Politicians are selfish. They look in the mirror, they practice their lines. They don't want anything to come in between them and a good 5-minute soundbite and the next election. So they don't give a crap. I guess. Okay, well, maybe I should just shut up there.
Well, I mean, it does seem that for the time being, this is the situation that the country's going to be dealing with, but maybe something will change in the future. And if it does, we
hope so.
it. Yeah, and we will be covering it. So thanks for joining the program.
Anytime, Jeff. I always love hanging out and chatting up the great issues with you.
Me too. And remember, this show is proudly sponsored by LibertyNation.com, where you can access podcasts, breaking news and analysis, and a range of biting and brilliant shows to whet your appetite for freedom and your fondness for the great American Constitution. Just go to LibertyNation.com in your browser, or hit Rumble, YouTube, or check out our Liberty Nation News Roku channel. I'm Jeff Charles. Thank you so much for watching. This program is a production of LibertyNation.com, where truth is making a comeback.
Entertaining, informative, and just plain fun. Watch Liberty Nation's The Conservative 5. Produced by conservatives for conservatives. C5's The Left Free Zone. Hosted by Liberty Nation's Lisa K. Donner. Joined by a raucous, irreverent panel of authors. Deconstructing leftist narratives. Debating the hot topics. And remembering to laugh.
You heard it here first.
Join the official conservative safe
You only
space.
did that to piss Jeff off.
Liberty Nation's The Conservative 5.
That is why they are so fervent. TV with your host, Jeff Charles.
Jeff Charles, contributor for LibertyNation.com.